How do you know if you should hire or fire an employee? One of those dreaded questions that every business owner struggles with, especially early on. And frankly, no matter what size of business, because of the closeness effect that we have with the people that we work with. We're gonna break that down for you in this video with me and Woody right here. So here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're hiring or firing, both of those things are really important to the long-term success of a business. Let me ask you this.
Oh, a question.
What do you think is more important, hiring or firing?
So, that's a tough answer.
I know, yeah.
I don't know.
So I'm like, rapid fire.
Here's what I'll say. Hiring is just as important as firing. I think they're totally equivalent of importance, because if you have someone who is toxic, you really need to let them go, because they're actually holding down your business. So I did a bunch of research for this book I wrote, called The Problem with Potential. And in this book, did a study on IT companies. And they found that if you have a toxic person that sits within 30 feet of everyone around them, they drop the income of the salespeople by like 30%, literally by just sitting in the same area, just by being toxic. And if you're near a top performer, your income goes up 15% just by being near a top performer. So you're talking a 45% swing if you don't fire someone, a 45% swing if you have really good people. And if you do that on your revenue right now, like what would that do for you? Yep. That's the value of making this call correctly. Right? Now, the question is that you want to solve, whether you hire or fire, per your situation, you need to know the answers to these following questions. Do you have a job description? If you don't have a job description, it's your fault that they're not performing well. So I don't know if you should hire or fire them until you have a job description. Does every employee that you have an ideal schedule laid out with the tasks from their job description in that schedule for 40 hours a week? Right. If you don't have that, you are mismanaging your employees. It is your fault. Does every employee have clear key performance indicators that they're trying to hit clear goals every week for their job, whether it's ops or marketing or whatever, that they need to hit in order to say this was a good week? If they do not have those, I don't know if you should hire or fire. It's your fault that they're not producing at a high productivity level. Okay, you need to know those three things. If you have those three things, okay, and they're really toxic, you fire them. It's pretty much that simple. If they're not following the very clear outline you have, then you would fire them. You might go through a process similar to this: 3 strikes and you're out. Strike 1, okay, I'm gonna talk to you. We're gonna hash this out right now. This cannot happen again. Strike 2, listen, if you do this again, we really need to have a serious conversation, right? Strike 3, hey, I'm gonna be letting you go. Here's the 3 reasons why. That's the best way to let somebody go. It's just have some sort of system that you're gonna go through.
It's tough for business owners. Is like, I'll give myself as an example. Like, I've hired 400 plus people across my career for different businesses that I felt filled. And not every person that I've hired has been the right hire. Like, that's just the reality. All 400 people, not the perfect person for the job. So we make mistakes in hiring. Like, it's an art, it's not a science. And sure, there's ways that you can hire really effectively, and I'm happy to dig in deeper on those, but like, it's not a science. So if you have to let someone go, like, it is not your fault directly. It may just not be the right fit. And so if you're sitting there and you're bearing the pressure of like, I hired this person, I need to make it work for them to work, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to do exactly what Joe said: set them up for success, have clear expectations. You can't wait to fire somebody because you feel responsible for them. You're responsible for your business at the end of the day as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. And so that's your number one priority. Your priority is absolutely people, but you're doing the rest of your team and yourself and probably your family a disservice by not firing somebody who's toxic.
Yeah, I mean, you are lowering your gross profits by 45% by having that person there, just based on the stats. And so, and that's of course generally, but it's like this, like, you have all of the risk. I mean, if the toxic person crashes a car and you get sued because of negligence, that person that crashed the car is not getting sued, it's you. It's you. And so you have the entire risk, and do you want to work with that person who might cause a liability issue for you? And that's why you fire people. because you are not wanting that massive lawsuit or whatever could happen. Because frankly, you don't want to plan for the best case every time with toxic people. You want to plan for what if the worst thing happens.
Right.
And there should be some urgency with firing those people. And you obviously can help them with a referral or find a place to work.
Yeah.
May not be a recommendation. I don't know. Depends on the scenario. But let's talk about hiring for 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So hiring can help you have a lower churn rate, right? Churn rate just being turnover of your employees, right? So when you hire with a job description, right, with an ideal schedule, with clarity on your values, right, with KPIs in place, exactly the expectations you want people to perform at, then they come in with exactly the template to follow, and they know they're supposed to follow it or they're not doing the job right.
Yep.
I think when you're hiring in that way, people deselect themselves that would normally have been a toxic hire for you.
Yeah.
So in the hiring and recruiting process, the more clarity you can have for your people, the better it is. I think one big mistake that people make in the hiring process that leads to a toxic worker, because no one joins a job to be toxic. Some people are just toxic and they're not in a maturity level to work at your specific style or type of company. But people become toxic over time when they feel lethargic. Think of your business employees like a little creek, right, with running water. And when they jump in, there's running water because there's a learning curve. They're growing, they're feeling like, wow, I'm getting better at this thing. And there's essentially a milestone that they're gonna hit. Once they hit that milestone, the question for you as a business owner, what happens next? Imagine that milestone becomes a dam in the water, and then it starts to become a cesspool. That's what happens with toxic workers. So as a designer of your position, you need to always have a better future. Where are they gonna go so they don't end up with a dead-end job? If a high producer or good person that you love working with that adds a lot of value to your business finds themselves in a dead-end job, they're gonna leave you, and it's not what you want. And if they realize it's a dead-end job, they may not have the confidence to leave, but their work ethic might degrade based on the fact that they've realized they're in a hopeless feeling situation. So ask yourself, what is the better future that every recruit I work with can achieve at those metrics if they follow those 3 or 4 things at the beginning that we talked about? And if you have that set up, you'll have less toxic people in your culture.
Yeah, I think the other big thing with hiring is oftentimes as business owners, we're so excited to hire for that next position because we need somebody. Like, we're growing so fast and we just need somebody to fill this position. But what we end up doing is, let's say I run a pool, right? A family pool in my neighborhood. And like, I just have to hire the next lifeguard because we just had 100 new members sign up and we got to protect the children. Like, we got to keep them safe. And I go and I hire somebody and I find out 3 weeks in that they can't swim. Right?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, I was so excited to hire them. I need this position filled. I need it filled. I didn't even ask the person if they could swim. And so then we get these people in the company excited to work with us, but they can't perform the tasks that are set in front of them, or they're not equipped to do it. And so that like competency piece of hiring is so important to not forget that on the front end when we're just pumped to hire somebody. And that falls on us as business owners at the end of the day. Like, we have to make sure we're hiring the right person for the right position and having those tasks set out in front of them.
In between the hiring and firing process is this thing we call training. So if your training is really poor or not clear for people, people will eventually get frustrated or feel like they're not progressing. And just like I was saying, if they feel like they're in a dead-end job or feel like they're not progressing, it's like getting all stuck with a bunch of weeds, and then they're sort of cesspooling, and then they don't want to work for you. And a good person may just end up becoming a thorn in your side and cloud your judgment whether or not you should fire or hire. And so fix those problems first. Look at your training, be really honest with yourself. If your training is stellar, if your job description, if your schedule, if your KPIs are really, really clear, the person is unable or not willing, 2 different things, to perform the job, both of those reasons are good reasons to go ahead and let them go, so you can have a 45% net swing on the culture of your business. So that's what we recommend. All right, guys, if you appreciate this video, please like, comment, share with somebody who needs to hear it. We love hearing about your thoughts, what was helpful for you today. And if you guys have any questions about business growth, just go to knowledgegapconsulting.com and give us a call.